All right, fuckers, we're here. We're ready to roll. We have Cone, as you all know, the 3 Cone, the GOAT, is going to be joining me here today. We're going to be yapping about NBA. What you know about it?
We're back, baby. We're back.
Can't be more excited myself. I know you've been itching to get back all season long as we've been talking about it. But yeah, we're going to hop straight into pretty much player props. We're going to hop into lines. We're going to hop into all that sort of fun shit. And pretty much go over our thoughts, feelings, opinions. We're going to go over probably like MVP stuff. We're going to talk about some games later on as well on the Wednesday slate. But we do have 2 games today that we're going to fire through. Some exciting games. Nonetheless, Boston, the Knicks, obviously big trade there. So can't get much bigger than that when you have Cat making his first appearance, as well as on the other side of the trade in Minnesota, Julius Randle is going to make his first appearance. And obviously, we have LeBron James and the defending champs in the Celtics and Lakers. Is Bronny going to get on the court today? That's a question as well.
It sounds like he is. According to Brian Windhorst, he said that because he was being asked, like, will Bronny get minutes? And he said to be seated at the start of the second quarter. So it sounds like Bronny's going to get in. And I know on Underdog, they have Bronny at 0.5 points. You can pick that. I think it's kind of
Is it a trap?
It might be a trap. I think he will get in the game, in my opinion. Whether they should or not put him in the game is a different thing, but I think he will get in the game. The question is, does he score a bucket? Because it was rough in the preseason.
Last game, though. Last game.
That's true. He did kind of go off. I feel like they try to get him involved. I don't know. It might be. That feels like the most obvious trap ever that I might end up walking into, but
no, 100%.
It's fun.
No, yeah, I am pretty much on the exact same page there. I'll probably end up walking into a big L, but I feel like for the fun of it, you kind of almost have to just dabble a little bit and see what you can get. We are going to be here on Underdog per usual. If you guys aren't on Underdog, you can get a free LeBron James squares. I'm flashing on the screen for you guys. Yeah, just half a point and you get a dub. I already took this today. Actually, I didn't even get the LeBron one. I got the Jalen Brunson one. And I paired it with one of the picks we're going to be going over here in a second. But yeah, so it's a free square. You also get up to $1,000 as well using code BDGE. You can lock in and dial in there. Hopping straight into the picks. We're not going to waste any more of your time here. Just want to make sure we're good here. Yeah, so obviously with the popular players up top, but we're going to ignore those. We're going to go by matchup of New York Knicks, Boston Celtics to start. You do get a 20% NBA boost today. So you can use that as well. But obviously the stars are Jason Tatum, Jalen Brunson. Their lines have moved like 17 times over the past week that this have been up. I know me and you have talked a little bit about it before in the office. How are you feeling about Brunson and Tatum coming into the season, and where do you think these kind of lines match up with what they're actually going to do?
Yeah, I mean, I feel good about them both. I feel like Tatum's got something to prove after, it wasn't the best finals run for him. Team USA didn't play that much. I think he's got something to prove. And plus Porzingis being out to start the season. I think him and Jaylen Brown both have pretty, not massive scoring jumps, but I think they'll score a little bit more to begin the year. Like I picked Jaylen Brown season-long points over because I felt like he was going to get more touches and he's going to have that chip on his shoulder from not being picked for Team USA. For game 1, though, I feel like it might be a gross one. I mean, the Knicks and Celtics always have these good games, but it feels like it's going to be one of those where there's a bit of rust, where you have 2 good defensive teams that could really throw up a lot of bricks at each other. Yeah, so like Brunson at 28 points, that feels high for me. Looking at that, I could definitely see Brunson going lower. I could see Tatum lower as well, but I think that's like a really on kind of the nose line right there. Cat is maybe one of the more interesting guys because it feels like to me they might try to get him involved. And it's not going to be Porzingis out there guarding. It's going to be Al Horford, out there guarding Cat, which is definitely an easier matchup for him than Porzingis. So he's one of the more interesting players out there for me in that matchup entirely. And then it's like, yeah, I don't know. Really, I feel like the lines feel kind of high for some of this scoring when I take a look at this matchup on paper as the first game of the season for both.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a little bit high for me. I think they're kind of playing into the almost the hype of the playoffs coming off of them, where Brunson was scoring 40 a game. You had Tatum, who was just taking a million shots and making like 3 of them. But that's kind of just the narrative around those two. And I took one of my first picks was the Jason Tatum under. I got it at 27.5. If you're following on Pickett, which makes sense if you're not using code BDG when you sign up because it's absolutely free. If you follow on Pickett, I got a 27.5 on BetMGM yesterday. I posted about it as well on Twitter. 26.5. I still like the under. It's just against the Knicks. He hasn't had an elite scoring game, and that was without OG. That was without Mikal now there. And at the same time, he struggled against OG last year, having 26 and 18 points against him the 2 times he's played him. Now, again, if you're taking the over at 26.5, obviously it looks a little more scary, but when you can buy almost 2 points with that, you feel great about it. And Tatum, I think, going against OG, pretty much he'll probably be like, and here's the thing with this Knicks team that I'm going to pick your brain about. I feel like they can switch everything and feel pretty comfortable outside of Brunson. And as long as you don't get Brunson on Tatum, I feel fantastic. Like, I feel like Mikal easily can keep up with him. Hart can keep up with him. OG, obviously. And even Cat can switch on and do some damage there. Obviously, he's not preferred there, but he can definitely step up and play some good defense. I think this is going to be probably more of a Brown game. If anything, maybe Drew can get involved depending on where this Knicks team does line up defensively. I think Tatum's going to obviously chuck his shots. He's going to see the volume, but it's tough for me to see this really falling in his favor. Game 1. Last season, he opened up 22 points. I think we'll probably fall around that mark again of just like opening with some inefficiency, some rust, knock it off. Didn't play a ton, like you said, in the Summer Olympics. So it'll be interesting to see how he comes out, but I'm definitely leaning the under there for sure.
Yeah, honestly, if you want to go with some for Tatum on an over, I kind of like 5.5 assists. Tatum was dishing out a ton of dimes in the playoffs, and I feel like if it's not really going his way, he's someone who's not afraid to defer a little bit more to kick if Jaylen Brown gets hot. They love to kick out to their shooters. So I kind of like 5.5 dimes for Tatum. I think that's actually a pretty solid number. I might end up taking that one because it feels like it's very attainable for him. I don't remember what he did specifically dimes-wise in the opener last season. I'm going to pull up his game log real quick. But it felt like he really leaned into the playmaking a lot more last season. It was 4.9 dimes, his career high. I think 6 is easily gettable for Tatum in the first game, especially when the Celtics are one of those matchup nightmares where they shoot a billion threes. They're going to try and pepper you with those. And it does feel like this could be kind of a rock fight of a game, low scoring. I think the Stars are going to have the ball in their hands a lot. And Tatum's going to find shooters at the very least.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree there. Tatum's a guy that, like, you even look at the end of last season, of the regular season especially, like, he was having games where he was having 12 assists, 10 assists, like random games where he was just popped off. And I feel like against the Knicks, that could definitely happen as well, deferring that shooting, especially if someone gets hot. My only worry would be, like, obviously no KP can definitely hinder that a little bit more, as he's a guy you definitely can look to in those stretches. But no, I definitely love the line, especially getting him at a 1.1 X is definitely some value there as well. So if you're going to lean over there for sure, I'm leaning under points. Definitely love that. We'll keep skipping ahead here, though, not take too much time on those guys. Where do you see? I saw a lot of guys taking Mikal over on points. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I mean, maybe I am so looking into this too deep. The shooting form scares me. Why are you changing your fucking shooting form this late into your career? It does not make sense to me. Maybe you can explain it better, but
I mean, it is weird because he's been a great shooter his entire career.
Yeah.
It feels like he's always had a little bit of a weird jumper because he's got those really long arms, but it's always looked pretty smooth in that context. It feels like there's like a weird hitch now. I don't know what's going on.
Dude,
I don't know if
it is a prominent hitch now. Like, it is like you can clearly see it. It is the second level of his jump shot. It comes out, the ball comes out much later out of his hand. It just like he shot 40% from threes. He's a great 3-point shooter. Why are you changing his form this late into his career? Listen, obviously maybe we're missing something, but it scares me to bet on a guy's points in a brand new offense with a new shooting form who's looked really bad with it. Yeah, it definitely scares me, but a lot of people are leaning on the over from obviously statistically in the past. There's a lot there for value-wise, but Boston defensively matchup, his usage realistically, what is it going to be? We don't know. Brooklyn, obviously, he was seeing a ton of usage as he was their main guy outside of when Cam Thomas would for some random games go for 36% usage. But he was the main guy there. I don't think he's that anymore. And him and OG, I feel like are going to trade off days, but not statistically, I guess the number's there if you believe, but I think I'm going to stay away personally.
Yeah, I'm not really into it either. Just with the Knicks, the fact that things have changed so drastically now with Cat coming in and Mikal Bridges, you've got OG back healthy, you've got Brunson still. The bench has changed up now because Dante DiVincenzo is gone. There's just a lot of question marks for me, so I don't feel great about picking anybody's over. I could see a world where Mikal puts up like 21 points and the shot looks good. I could see a world where Cat has like a 25-point game. OG Anunoby could pop off for like 15, 16 points. Brunson could have a big game. Again, I kind of like the under more on the 28. But I mean, if he has 25 and it's not the craziest offensive game like the way I'm kind of leaning, yeah, the Mikal thing definitely scares me a little bit. I also hate that it's just an even 14 because I feel like that could, land right there on that mark basically. So I would also kind of stay away from that. It just feels like there's way too many variables with how this offense could look. We've got no grasp of it at this point. I think they're going to really try and spread the ball a lot, especially going up against the Celtics team who is so good defensively. And that might lead to like nobody hitting their over, everybody getting right there at that spot and being basically on that line is kind of the way I'm looking at it.
No, I completely agree with you. My last question then we'll move off this game because I know people are wanting us to talk about LeBron because that's all people like to talk about. Last question, where do you see Miles McBride rotating now without DiVincenzo? Do you think he sees a bigger role than he did last year, almost like the playoff role that we saw a little bit against Indiana, or he was a big scorer down the stretch? Do you think that comes back, or do we see the Miles McBride or the Deuce McBride of, he's going to get 2 points, shoot 1 for 5, and that's about it?
I think we see a lot more of the playoff Deuce McBride. I think they're going to try and use him in a Dante-type role as the spark plug who comes in off the bench, a guy who – honestly, looking at his line of 1.5 threes, I think that's pretty interesting. I could definitely see him knocking down a couple because the bench is thin, especially with Mitchell Robinson out to start the season. It's going to be, off the bench, Deuce McBride, assuming they do start Josh Hart for a majority of the season. I feel like that's something that could be a little bit fluid depending on matchup. We'll see. It's like Jericho Sims off the bench, Precious Achiuwa. It's not a lot to start the season. Cameron Payne is there. I know they have his numbers listed, which I have no idea what Cameron Payne's going to do. Shout out to the Thunder legend there. I feel like Deuce is going to have a pretty good season. I like the 9.5 is interesting because I could see him being like the random guy that pops off a little bit off the bench, especially them needing production.
Off the bench. Yeah, just get something going.
But also Tibbs plays his guys a lot of minutes. And in a game against one of the top contenders in the East, I feel like he's going to play guys heavy minutes. So that's always the threat with playing Knicks bench players in any type of betting format, any type of like fantasy or anything. It's scary because you might have a game where Jalen Brunson plays 41 minutes to open the season, and I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's what other worry about is like you always see on like the props.cashes of the world and all these bettors are like, 155 days of rest. What you know about it? He's going to play the guys the entire game. And I'm like, maybe. Tibbs is always known to do that. Do you start your season playing your guys 41, 42 minutes? I mean, if I'm a coach, I'm like, let's start the season slow. Let's ease into it, and we'll get rolling down the stretch. Especially
if there's anyone who could do it, though.
Yeah, literally 100%. All right, we'll move on to the Minnesota game. This is where most of my money is, at least. For this game. LeBron, obviously, AD, polarizing players. Obviously, the GOAT down the stretch at the end of last season, Anthony Edwards is going to be a polarizing guy. And the Julius Randle. Oh, my God, they do Bronny at half a point. That's insane. Julius Randle going to be making his name known. Dante DiVincenzo, they also have lines up for. Jaden McDaniels now has an interesting role. Do you think that gets expanded, or do you think Dante kind of might lean into some of his minutes a little bit? Obviously, McDaniels being the defensive monster that he is, you'd think he might see more minutes in a game like this where he can kind of do more switches. But Dante being truly just the better scorer in almost every facet, do you think he might eat into those minutes he has?
Yeah, I'm curious to see the way they operate, especially when you can, like, it's Dante here now, it's Julius Randle here now, it's Rob Dillingham here now, who it seems like they like quite a bit. They want to be one of those spark plug guys off the bench. I am very curious to see the way that it goes. I expect it will be a good bit of Jaden McDaniels out there. I wonder if there's ever some moments where, because part of me is like you could have Dante in the game to wrap up and Mike Conley off the bench, but they need a lot of Mike Conley's playmaking, the table setting he provides, and plus he's a knockdown shooter as well. So I don't really know what the role is going to look like. I've seen some people talk about Dante's numbers here. I think I saw someone in the chat say Dante PRA is at a lock, 18.5. I'm just not really sure what it's going to look like. I do like the idea. I mean, Dante feels like a guy. I can already picture now Lakers fans being so mad because Dante has like 4 threes against them this game and ends up with like 15 points.
Yeah.
Feels very possible for Dante in this game. But I'm very curious to see what his role looks like. And then like with Julius Randle, they have his points at 18.5, and that feels like so low because we know how good Julius Randle is. But like, I just don't know what he's going to look like with this team. It feels like with him and Dante here now, everything's going to be very spread out.
Mm-hmm. The usage is going to be just I almost feel like it's now going to be so much thinner compared to at the end of last year. It was like Ant, it was Cat, and then it was like the rest sprinkled in. Where now this year, and Jaden McDaniels had his random big games for sure. Almost all of those were off catch and shoots though. Where now it's like, does Ant still command a 29% usage like he did last year? Does Randall really eat into that? Does he do a lot of the ball handling here? It's very interesting to see. The only line I really loved from Randall was actually his rebounds, and I think I texted you about it. I love his rebounding line and the value you get out of this at 1.x, and I got it at 110 on books. I think he's a guy that can snag a ton of rebounds, and he's had really, really good success versus Anthony Davis and the Lakers in the past, against Anthony Davis and LeBron, ironically. He's averaging 13.2 rebounds. Now, again, completely different team. He's dealing with Rudy Gobert now. People are like, oh, Rudy Gobert is going to take away a lot of rebounds. Well, when he's going against Anthony Davis and like a dogfight down there, I feel like there's going to be a lot of long rebounds that Julius Randle's going to snag. I feel like there's a lot of rebound opportunities there to have, and I don't think that's kind of looked at like it is, where it's going to be, there's going to see a sizable role for Gobert and Davis to grab some, but I think Randle's definitely going to be a guy that's going to have to be almost that tone setter down low to kind of, especially because LeBron doesn't crash anymore. Like, let's be real. Like, unless it's a long rebound, LeBron's not going up and like snagging over people like he once did. So I think Randall's going to have a lot of easy opportunities there to snag some boards, and I really like that line.
I like it a lot too. Yeah, I know we were texting about it. Also, the Lakers, JJ Redick has been hammering home, we need to shoot more threes, which adds even more credence to your, potential long rebounds, not really going to Gobert as much. I love Randall getting 7.5. I like the idea of Randall getting a double-double.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people sprinkling that in.
Yeah, I saw 1.95 on the Julius Randle double-double here at Underdog. I like that a lot. I think that's very attainable for him. If you want to be safer, just go with the 7.5 rebounds. I feel pretty good about that, like we were saying. But I feel like a double-double for Randall is very easily attainable in 100%. This game. Gobert's going to grab a lot of boards, but if Randall's playing alongside Naz Reid isn't this prolific rebounder or anything like that. I wouldn't be surprised if we see at least a minute or a few tonight of Julius Randle out there as like a small ball 5. They could go that way if the Lakers go a little bit smaller. I feel like there's a lot of ways they're going to use Randle, and they're going to employ him a lot of different lineups today to kind of see what works. So I imagine he'll get some pretty good run. I feel like he's going to be involved a lot. And Randle's also a guy where he could be down low battling against Anthony Davis and put up a shot and it misses and he grabs his own rebound or gets blocked and grab a rebound. Like, it feels like there are ways where that could get boosted up too, just by random shenanigans throughout the game. So I like that line a lot too.
Is Dalton going to, now this is a question, like a genuine question, is Dalton going to play a lot of the 5, you think, if he gets in and sees a good amount of minutes here? So he could be more of the 4 next to a Davis playing the 5 there.
Dalton, I'm very excited to see what Dalton looks like with this Lakers team. I feel like it'll be a lot of, I think we'll see some like 2, 3. I could even see some 4 for Dalton playing out there. The Lakers have an issue where their bench is bad. Like, they just don't have depth. So they're going to need him to play, I think, probably at least some 2, some 3. Could see again 4 if they go a little bit smaller with that lineup and they want some stretchability. But I imagine LeBron will be in that lineup and play there at the 4th, connected to 3. I'm surprised they don't have anything listed here for him while they have Bronny.
No, I know, it's crazy. I was really going to look into that because he's looked really good. Obviously now it's preseason and everything with that, but he's looked like he could be a good player for them down the stretch here. Obviously, with Debussy and Bronny have a point. I mean, it feels like a lock when you think about it. Going to get a single point in a game with his dad, makes a lot of sense. But in all realness, I like the Randall higher and a half, like we talked about. Double-double's very juicy. It'll be interesting to see how he matches up with these guys down low and his usage role for sure. The other play I'd really like out of this game, it moved up to 8, but I had LeBron James at 7.5 assists. I'll still take it at 8 for sure. I think he can almost have a double-double here as well. Let's see what it is. Is it juiced here for double-double? I don't even think they have it. Oh, they do. 1.17 double-double. Love that as well. I think LeBron's going to be dishing the rock a lot like he did last year, averaging 8.5. 8.5 assists for most of the season last year. Had multiple games, especially at the end of last year, having over 15 potential assists. Averaged at the end of last season 15.3 potential assists per game. Those potentials reached all the way up to 23 in some games. He was dishing like crazy, and I think we see more of that as, again, he ages, gets older, not going to be attacking the rim as hard. But, again, with JJ doing 10 minutes on my free Zoom. All right, we might have to relaunch this in a second. But with him doing a ton of kickouts and JJ Redick being the guy where he wants to see more threes, like I think it can produce a lot of easy backdoor cuts if they're spreading out the floor, as well as you can see a lot of just easy kick out threes with people crashing on LeBron. And I think we can see some easy buckets there for sure. So I think he can easily dish the rock.
Yeah, I like 8 dimes for LeBron too. I liked it even better, like you said, at 7.5 before it got moved up. Makes sense that they did because it felt like 7.5 was very easy for him. I do like also the value isn't really there because it's just 0.81x, but the 1.5 threes for LeBron feels very easy. Again, they're going to shoot a lot of threes. He shot over 40% last year, and I feel like with him getting up there in age, he's going to continue to shoot those threes. Redick's going to ask him to. So, yeah, I feel like this is a game where LeBron's going to shoot some threes. He's going to attack and really dish to guys. I liked a lot more of the movement they had in JJ Redick's offense. I think it's going to be more dynamic. I feel like him getting a double-double and getting 10 assists is pretty easy.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. How do you think this offense looks as a whole? Like you said, a lot more movement and whatnot. You think they're going to just be more explosive in turn with that and be able to put up a lot higher scoring games, or you think it's going to be more just a little bit like we saw last year where they have lulls of big stretches of 0 points and just can't get the ball movement and just brick from three? But hoping you come out here and tell me that that's going to change this year so we can see more Lakers props going down.
Yeah, I'm hopeful it's going to change this year, that it's going to be a more dynamic offense. I mean, looking at the preseason, I love the way that they were using guys. It was a lot less of just, hey, LeBron, AD, run a pick and roll, like see what happens kind of thing. They were running a lot more actions. They were getting more guys involved as the ball handlers, letting AD shooting threes. I'd like to see that because I feel like he's gotten away from that a little bit. Not that he's been a good jump shooter over the past few seasons. He's been statistically one of the worst, but he was knocking down some threes in the last preseason game that he played. It seems like that is an emphasis. They're wanting to modernize the offense. And I'm a believer in JJ Redick as a coach. I don't know if he's going to be an amazing one from day one, but I like what I've seen. I like what I've heard from him so far. So I am excited. I think it'll really just come down to what we see from the Lakers role players. What is Reeves doing this season? Is D'Lo consistent? Because he shot well last year, but there's some games where he was great, some games where it was really rough. Is AD's jumper back? Is that actually a thing that's there? What does Dalton Connect look like in his first year as a pro? Yeah. I think it'll come down to those guys, but at least the system will be in place for them to be a lot better. It's just going to be a matter of if they actually perform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm excited for it. I think it could be definitely interesting as well. And to see them go against Minnesota game one is going to be
really
going to be interesting.
It's a good test.
I have Lakers money line for the value. I'm doing it.
I like it. Minnesota's integrating a new piece with Julius Randle. I think there's some question marks there with him. For the Lakers, I feel like the new coach boost is going to give them something. They lost last year pretty embarrassingly. I mean, they were against a much better team than the Nuggets, but they got fried against the Nuggets in that opening night game. I think they really want to come out and prove themselves. So, yeah, I like the idea of the Lakers winning tonight. I think that's very, very possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I took them as their money line. I think again, like you said, just the Randall piece, adding and a different pieces here and there. I see how Rob does in general. defensively especially. We'll see how that pairs up against the Lakers. And I want to see how Austin Reeves does this year. I think he can have a pretty solid year as well in this new offense. But yeah, I'm not going to keep you for too much time. We will go over a few lines for tomorrow. If there's any matchups that you are super excited for tomorrow, any matchups that you're trying to point out to the people to get ahead on, obviously the Zoom time is running out in 5 minutes, so we'll try to speed it up here. But if there's anything, I know you got to wait till Thursday for your boys. Thursday for your boys, so we're not going to get too far ahead there. We'll do something for that on Thursday. But for Wednesday's games, big slate, what are you thinking?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I like the idea of John Morant having a big kind of burst onto the scene game against the Jazz. That's a great matchup for him to destroy them. Maybe he doesn't play as many minutes because they do kind of cook them, but it's also like Russ. They haven't played together as a group, so I don't think they'll blow them out from the get-go. So I could see John Morant having a really big game. Pacers-Pistons, I'm excited about. Weirdly enough, you might be like, why are you excited to watch the Pistons play? Mainly because I think Cade Cunningham's coming to the season with a vengeance, and the Pacers weren't a great defense last season. I could see Cade having a pretty solid game now that there's more spacing and a new coach there.
Jalen Duren to the moon?
Jalen Duren to the moon, potentially. I like that idea. I'm hopeful that it's less horrific basketball being played now that Monty Williams is gone, who I feel like was kind of a double agent. Suns Clippers, that's like on paper an interesting game, but obviously no Kawhi Leonard. You know, what's it going to look like?
Yeah, it could be
I
rough.
like the idea of, with the Suns, it feels like it's going to be one of those games where nobody goes too crazy. Everybody is kind of evenly spread across the board. I do like the Suns to win pretty clearly there.
Anything about my Hornets, LaMelo? Like it?
Your Hornet? I'm a LaMelo believer.
Thank you.
I think LaMelo could have, I don't know if I want to see triple-double because that might be too much. I think LaMelo has a really big game tomorrow. The Rockets are a good defensive team, but I'm a believer in this Hornets team. I think they're going to be right there on the cusp of the play-in. I think LaMelo is a big year. And against the Rockets, who are, in my opinion, going to be pretty good this season, I feel like they can make a little bit of a statement. So that's interesting to me. And then no Embiid, no Paul George against the Bucks with not great guard defense.
What the hell is going on with, like, why are they out? Like, I know George, but what's Embiid dealing with?
I don't know, man. Even Nick Nurse was asked about. He's like, he's just he's progressing well. Like, they're like, why did he play in the Olympics? And he was fine, but he's not fine now. I never really know with Joel Embiid, man. I never really know. I want to see him be healthy for a full run, but I don't know if we're ever going to see it.
Yeah. Do you think the Dame and Giannis duo does better this year? Obviously, a little bit shaky last year, especially obviously in the playoffs with Giannis out. Dame had to kind of take over, struggled a little bit. Dame just wasn't fully himself. Do you think we get a full like Dame time year again, or do you think it's going to be more of what we saw last year?
I do think Dame is better. That is one thing tomorrow against the Sixers. If you want a player to bet, I haven't seen what his numbers look like for Dame tomorrow, but I feel like Dame is one of those guys. Let me see if I can find out underdog real quick. 24.5 points. I think that's interesting. Going off, making a statement game tomorrow. I think he has a bounce back year and he's better. He averages right around 25, 26. And him and Giannis look a lot more cohesive as a pairing. I don't know what the rest of the team's going to look like because Chris Middleton had double ankle surgeries, but Dame himself, I think, has a big bounce back here.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people were like, oh, Chris Middleton isn't going to play or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. He's might be cooked. He might be actually
cooked. Might be cooked. Yeah, it feels like he's turning to dust in front of us, which sucks because Middleton's awesome.
Yeah,
yeah, man, I don't know.
I'm expecting the one game I will end with real quick and yap about real quick is I think Trae Young has a big day against Brooklyn. I think Trae Young is going to have a good season. And again, if he stays healthy, obviously that's the big thing. Can he play? At the beginning of last season, before we get to All-Star break, everything like he was playing good ball. Not elite ball, good ball. Assists were higher than has ever been. He was scoring very inefficiently to start the year, but started to figure it out. Obviously, trailed off before he got injured, but I think he can come back this year and really turn the corner. And his line's only at 24.5 points. I feel like he was at 27.5 almost the entirety of last season. Obviously, there were shooting woes, but I think he gets that down this season. His 10.5 assists feel also fantastic as he was averaging the most potential assists per game last season. I think he gets back to that as well. So I think Trae Young's going to have a big day.
In that same vein, Jalen Johnson at 17.5. He's my pick for MIP. I like that a lot. I would go higher on that for sure.
Yeah, love Jalen Johnson.
That's going to be bad this season. I would take that. Also, I'm looking at Dennis Schroeder at 16 points. That feels high.
Yeah.
Like that's.
I mean, he's great in the Olympics.
Course, but
Yeah, he was great in the Olympics. Maybe, hey, never know. But I do want to thank you for being here, obviously. Appreciate all your ball knowledge as usual. We will be having more shows like this all throughout the NBA season. With NFL, we're going to be more focused on that for now, but we will be rolling a ton of NBA content. I'm doing a minus 500 challenge as well. If you guys missed that, it's on Twitter at BDGEBets. We took LeBron James and Anthony Edwards to just get 1 3-pointer. Come on. Just 1 3? You can't do it?
Just one.
$100 to turn into $23K over 30 days. We're locking that in. Again, if you missed it, it is on BDGEBets Twitter, and we're going to keep rolling with that. I want to thank you again for joining me, Cone, and appreciate everyone that was here, that tuned in, that asked questions. Hopefully we answered everything as we went over pretty much both games tonight in entirety. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.